to the Dawgs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
What's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Blake and Kenny coming to you tonight. We were supposed to have Justin, but I think he is being wrangled by a couple of kids who don't want to go to bed right now. We're recording this pretty late. Sometimes when we do these midweek episodes, we try to do them after we get the kids to bed. Kenny doesn't have to worry about it. His kids are grown. But bedtime, if any of you guys have toddlers, bedtime could take 10 minutes or it could take 12 hours. And I feel like he's in the middle of one of a 12-hour bedtime situation here. So Kenny and I are going to handle it. Josh is at home. He's unable to do an episode tonight as well with the new baby and toddler. Things are a little crazy at the All household. So me and Kenny are going to hold down for you guys. We will, Josh, myself, Justin, we'll be in studio on Sunday. What is it? Well, is that March 1st? Is Sunday March 1st? Check your calendar.
Second.
March 2nd. Sunday, March 2nd at 3 p.m. We will be doing the celebration 500th episode since we had to reschedule what was the actual 500th episode. So at 3 o'clock p.m. on Sunday, Josh, Justin, and myself will be in the studio. I'm hoping we can get Kenny to call in for a few minutes or something. Yeah. We got some fun stuff lined up. It might even be a little bit of a longer episode. It's just going to it's going to be like real chill, laid back. It's going to be like you're sitting in the garage, drinking a couple brews, talking about the Browns with some buddies. It's like,
I think I'll do that, man. That's a good idea.
Grab a couple afternoon beverages and come hang out with us in the chat on Sunday, March 2nd, 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be live on YouTube doing that 500th episode. We're going to be giving away 3 Dawgs Podcast t-shirts as well as a Cleveland Browns jersey. In order to be entered for a chance to win those, just become either already be a YouTube member or become a YouTube member between now and the end of that episode, or for the jersey, already be a Dog Pack member or become a Dog Pack member now or between now and the end of that episode. Anybody who's a Dog Pack member will be entered for a chance at the t-shirt and the jersey. Anybody who is a YouTube member will be entered for a chance at the jersey. We're going to give the t-shirts. We're going to give away 3 t-shirts and we're going to give away a Browns jersey during that episode to kind of celebrate being here for 5 seasons and 500 episodes. And we touched on this a little bit, covering over 25% of the starting quarterbacks for the Browns since they returned to Cleveland. So we can't wait to do 500 more episodes with you guys, but make sure you guys come hang out with us on Sunday. I think it's going to be a really good time. And we want to celebrate doing 500 episodes with everybody who's helped make it possible and help us get to this point. We got a fun episode lined up for you today. We're going to talk about Adrian Berry's press conference at the Combine, a couple of things he said on Cleveland Browns Daily. And then we want to talk about this NFLPA Report Cards that came out today that kind of been the hot topic online since they dropped. Newsflash, Browns didn't do well. It looks a little bit like one of my high school report cards. So we're going to cover all that. Before we do, though, remember, if you want to get thoughts and features on the show, head to thedawgspodcast.com, tap leave voicemail on the drop-down menu. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Make sure you tap the notification bell so you don't miss any of the new content we're coming out. Also, you can make sure you become a YouTube member so you can be entered for a chance to win the t-shirt during the 500th episode. You can listen to the show on Apple, Spotify, and Google. You can find us on any of the social media platforms. Just search at the Dawgs Podcast. And last, if you want to become a Dog Pack member to be entered for a chance at that Browns jersey, you want to get access to the private Discord, you want to get an extra episode, you want to be part of episodes, you want to play fantasy football with us. If I haven't already said that, that's jointhedawgs.com to become an official Dog Pack member. And again, that'll get you entered for this jersey contest as well as any other contest we ever do. Dog Pack members are always automatically included in any contest we ever do, any giveaway we do. We give away a lot of stuff to the guys in the Dawgs Pack podcast or the Dog Pack. A couple of these guys, their entire wardrobe is Dawgs Podcast t-shirts. So
I think we're like 5 days a week, man, for sure.
Yeah. So, but anyways, let's dive into this thing. Obviously, Adrian Berry had his press conference at the Combine yesterday. Kevin Stefanski had his today. We'll cover his another time. A couple of the highlights we wanted to touch on, and this was one, I think there's been a lot of speculation by Browns fans. Maybe I'll call them even hopeful Browns fans, was with the news that Deshaun re-injured his Achilles, that maybe they could get out of the contract if he did it doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing, and outside of team issued rehab. And Adrian Berry came out and said nothing. He used the term nefarious happened. He was, he did it during the rehab he was supposed to be doing that was being conducted by the team and all that stuff. So it looks like the Browns aren't getting out of the contract that way.
No, I mean, I think the only thing you can do, well, thanks, Andrew Barry, for my word of the day, nefarious. I appreciate that. But I mean, he was pretty casual about it. When he gets up there, he's super easygoing. Nothing seems to rattle him. He just simply put it was a simple accident. And the only thing that they really want for him is to get healthy. I did notice, though, I mean, I didn't hear him say that he's looking forward to him playing this year. He didn't really give a timeline. I mean, he didn't set any expectations for anything. And I think all you can do and hope for is that he doesn't, because you're going to be in the quarterback market this year. And the only other thing you can expect is a restructure, because we need some cap room. And his restructure will provide us with the most amount of cap space.
No, yeah, I obviously, I don't root for injuries, but any chance to be able to get out from under the contract would have been helpful. I think there is no world in which he plays another down of football for the Browns. I would be shocked if he ever plays another down of football in the NFL again. So I do believe the Browns are going to get some cap relief in terms of the insurance payout, but I think that doesn't hit. We'll get some payback from the games he missed last year, but then I think it's next season where we'll get all the relief from the payout from missing all the games this year. So
I kind of read two trains of thought on that, right? So I guess what happens against the salary cap, if a guy is if there's insurance against a guy, misses the entire season, it can be claimed against the cap. If you miss part of the season, though, it just goes to the owner. And that's kind of what I've been reading. So if that's the hard line or whatever the cap rules, or if somebody can throw it in the comments, I'd like to know what the actual rules are on that. But that's what I've been coming across as of late.
That's interesting. That would be unfortunate. I think he'll miss this entire season with an injury. There's no way he's coming back from 2 Achilles injuries, within a couple of months of each other. And I just don't see any world in which he's playing this year. I think he'll miss the whole year due to injury. And speaking of injury, another guy that we have officially entered worrisome territory, and I think maybe a lot of us have already been there, but no timeline for JOK's return. And I'm really starting to fear that we might not ever see JOK play football again, which is that really sucks, because he was really starting to come into his own. I mean, and I don't say that as in he was, okay, and we could see flashes. He was great. And I still think he was just scratching the beginning of his potential. He wasn't even in his prime yet. So if for this injury, I mean, I'm just glad he's physically okay enough where, he's not, at least as far as I know, he's not bound to a wheelchair or anything, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to play football anymore, which is, I feel terrible for him. And then for the Browns, it goes from a spot that you thought you had locked up for a few years to now all of a sudden it's a gaping hole in the middle of your defense, because he was playing at such a high level.
Dude, it's really tough, man. He was one of those guys that you strive to look for in the second round. He's a difference maker. He's elite, and he's a talent that you're not going to find. And for us to sit here and there's no word from CBD, Cleveland Browns Daily. There's no word from the Browns. There's no word from his camp. It's super concerning. It's been about 8 months now, 6 months, 8 months, around there, and not a peep from anybody, not even JOK himself. So I'm super concerned as well.
You'd have to think, I mean, you play injuries close to the chest during the season, and you keep your opponents guessing, but in terms of this, there's no reason to be keeping a secret. You'd think if he was progressing nicely, he'd be out on social media talking about how he's excited to be back. You'd think the Andrew Barry would be out here talking about how they're really happy with the progress he's made, and they think he's going to be, ready sometime this season. The fact that we're not even getting confirmation he's going to be able to play football again, to me, that says a lot about the outlook, which is just scary. So I feel terrible for JOK. It sucks for the Browns defense. It's just a terrible situation all around. So we're going to hope for the best, but I think the Browns are going to have to plan for the worst. And the linebacker, even though we're a team that doesn't place a ton of value on linebacker, which really irritates me, we're going to have to address it. Like that is going to need addressed because he was playing a crazy high level, and it's just his athleticism. I mean, he's a little undersized, be playing in the box, but he's so quick, so athletic that he was able to play down there with those big guys and still make tackles, not get bullied. But he was so good behind the sideline, blitz packages, like
tackles for loss, bud. Tackles for loss. You know what I mean? Like he can shoot the line of scrimmage, get behind the line of scrimmage and make those tackles. He was unreal, like just a physical specimen. For his size, it's a loss. It would be like losing a talent like Myles Garrett. Like it's not an easy thing to deal with.
I agree. So the speaking of Myles Garrett, then the next thing that kind of the highlight, which has been a talk, since it was announced, is Myles wanting traded. And we've been hearing reports from everybody that the Browns are saying they're not trading him. And then we heard Interberry say it himself once again at the press conference. They don't envision themselves parting ways with Myles Garrett. They're not trading him. He's not available. And from what I'm telling you is they're not even picking up the phone. Like their teams are calling and they're just like not interested to like hang up. I don't envision a scenario where he's traded this year. Like you've been pounding, beating drum about this, is fiscally, he's almost untradeable fiscally this season. At least,
absolutely.
At least before June 1st. Post June 1st, it gets a little bit more manageable, but you don't want to trade this guy for picks or something and not even know where that pick's going to be. Like, so if you're going to trade him for a pick, you want it to be in this draft so you know where it's at. And we can't do that, money wise. And then you don't want to trade him to, even if you trade him to a dumpster fire team, this is the NFL. They might have been a dumpster fire this year, and then they turn around and they win 13 games and go to the NFC Championship game, like the Commanders. So
yeah,
you don't want to take that risk and trade Myles Garrett for pick number 28 or 30. Like that would be awful. So I wasn't surprised to hear that, but it's just I don't think he's going anywhere. And I feel like he's kind of quieted down. I haven't heard as much from Myles in terms of, in fact, I've been hearing rumors about they're going to get an extension done. So I don't know if any of that's true. I think it's just a bunch of smoke and mirrors on both sides, kind of playing hardball. But I think Myles Garrett's going to be playing for the Browns this season. And I also don't envision him sitting. Like it's just, no, that does him no good to just waste a season. If he really wants to compete, sitting would do nothing. At least if you go out and play for the Browns, you have a chance to win games. You can't win any games if you're sitting at home. So
no, he wants to be in the Hall of Fame. And like, it's like we were saying, like he's literally going to count for about $37 million. And it's hard to give the final number of what it actually is based on when the trade is, right? But the Browns have to do so much cap wise and structure and restructures and move players to get under the cap for where we're at. And you're just going to take this $37 million and trade this guy. Like it makes no sense. Like if you get down to $70 million, that means you're going back up to $30 million on the cap. Like how many good players can we not sign if that happens? It doesn't matter if you get the first round picks or the picks. Most of them will be next year anyway. So the season's basically a lame duck if you do it. And it just does the Browns no good financially whatsoever. But you know what it is? It's right now, it's fun to talk about. Everybody wants to trade for Myles Garrett, man. It's exciting. Like that's the talk of the town right now, and it gets fans excited. It's just the biggest thing. It's like I was giving you that Zoolander reference, that Myles, he's so hot right now, just like Hansel, and everybody wants to talk about it, but they just don't understand like the damage it would do to the actual Browns themselves. Like they know they can't do it. It just physically, I can't say physically, financially cannot happen.
I agree. He's going to be in the brown and orange at least this season. And then all it takes is you just coming out and play well this year in winning games and showing him that we are serious about competing right now, not 5 years from now. And then all goes away, a la David Njoku. So,
yeah, I mean, I basically said, I wrote a bit of a piece for Barry Shuck, Dawgs by Nature. And I said the exact same thing. I said, there's no way Myles number one isn't a general manager. So a general manager speaking to a player and giving him a plan or outlining a plan, there's nothing you can tell him at that point because you have nothing tangible. So the easiest thing to do is keep him, because we made a joke last time. I'm going to take out my PFF mock draft simulator and go, here's where it is, Myles. This is what we're going to do. That's not going to happen. What you do is you physically follow your plan, get your free agents, your draft done. You show them, invite them into camp, and get them to play. Worst case scenario, nothing works. You're a lame duck team that goes back to number 2 pick again next year. None of the staff will be around. They'll probably trade him anyways, and then all will be done. So let that happen, and let's see where the season takes us. And hopefully Myles is all along for a ride, and it's back to 11 or more wins. So let's go.
No, you said something like, if we're picking high again next year, everybody will be gone. It feels like this window, this era of players, the door's not all the way shut, but it's basically there. And this season is going to be, are we opening it back up for a couple more seasons, or are we closing the door on this era and it's going to be total rebuild next year? I don't think we're doing the total rebuild this year, because you don't do a total rebuild with Kevin and AB kind of coaching and GMing for their jobs this season. The way I look at it, they need to win games this year. If it goes south again, I think then we're talking total rebuild next year.
This episode is sponsored by Omaha Steaks. Browns fans, if you're like me, you're counting down the days to April, and not just because it's the NFL draft and the Browns have the second overall pick, but because the weather will finally start getting nice again. But during these cold months of winter, there's nothing better than comfort food to get you through to the warm days ahead. And right now, during Omaha Steaks semi-annual sale, you can get 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com, plus get an extra $30 off with promo code BARK, B-A-R-K, when you check out. Now, the last thing I want to do in the winter is make extra unnecessary trips outside. So scratch the grocery runs and the takeout pickups and take advantage of this great sale to stock up on the best quality food. When you're ready for a fantastic and delicious meal right at home, you'll have everything you need ready to go from your freezer. And always, always, always add the caramel apple tartlets to your order. They are by far my favorite dessert of all time. So don't miss the semi-annual sale at Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and for an extra $30 off. Use promo code BARK at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code BARK at checkout.
Now, the last point I want to talk about from his press conference was the big one that's getting Browns fans really bent out of shape online, was they're going to let Nick Chubb test the market in free agency. And people were just freaking out about how you can't let this guy go. He's got to retire a Brown and all this stuff. And here's what I'm saying. Just because they're letting him test the market doesn't mean they're kicking him to the curb. And you said it even before we started recording. What offer do you give to Nick Chubb right now? Because as a fan, you're saying, give him, you got to keep him on this team. But you got to understand, this is a team that you have to run like a business, essentially. And you can't just because it makes you feel good, offer a 30-year-old running back coming off back-to-back season-ending injuries. He's blown out his knee twice, just broke the ankle. Like, this isn't a guy you can just back the Brinks truck up to because you like him. If that was the case, we would all do that. But you have to make good decisions for your football team as a whole, not for one player. So you can't disrespect them by saying, here's the league minimum. That's worse than saying, go ahead and test the market. You let him go out there. I don't think he's going to have a huge market value. I don't see, this isn't a Saquon Barkley situation. Okay. Saquon Barkley is in his prime. Younger. Nick Chubb is at the tail end of his career, coming off multiple injuries. So I don't see this. This isn't a Saquon situation where some team is going to come in and give him some huge payday. I don't think he's going to demand high money on the free agent market. And so then if anybody does come along and they offer him some middle of the road contract, then the Browns can match it. And then who knows, maybe because the Browns did him a solid by letting him test the free agent market. He says he wants to be here. Maybe we can't even match it exactly what he's offered, but we can do something else for him to incentivize him to want to come back to Cleveland. Yeah, it's where he wants to be anyways. So it's not a bad thing to let him hit the market. And if somebody does back up the Brinks truck and bring him in, well, then good for Nick Chubb, because we can't do it here. It makes zero sense to do it. We did him a solid essentially by restructuring and bringing him back this past season. So this is, you can't, feel good stories don't win football games. You can't just keep him here and give him tons of money just because we all like him. If, like, sure, of course I want Nick Chubb to retire a Brown, but if God forbid he goes somewhere, we can bring him back the day he wants to retire. He can sign a 1-day contract. He'll still retire a Brown if that's what it takes. Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I just take it as a bad dude, like a lot of Browns fans.
No, taking it. I didn't either. I mean, right now people just want to be angry. There's nothing you can do on social media to make anybody happy. You can just say, I like the colors brown and orange, and people will be angry. It doesn't matter, right? But like it's like you said, you can't insult him with the veteran minimum, but you can basically get him, and other teams can't insult him with that, and they can give him whatever offers they want, and the Browns can basically say, yeah, this is what we'll do. I like your incentives idea, but I mean, I just want Nick, if you're out there, dude, just go out, get your price, and come home. Just show us what it is, and hopefully we can have you home, brother.
Yeah, let the market do the negotiating for you, other than you insult the guy by offering him something, and then all of a sudden now he doesn't want to be in Cleveland because we insulted him. So I don't think it's a terrible thing to let him test the market. So then kind of switching, still sticking with the AB talk, but this was on Cleveland Browns Daily. He was the two things I wanted to talk about. The first one being he was addressing his biggest mistake, I guess, as GM of the Browns. And he said in drafting, the draft philosophy has been go get guys that have high production, but maybe they haven't looked at least the way I took it, physical traits enough. You know, like they took a guy, maybe he was a highly productive wide receiver for 3 years at a school, but he isn't. But the measurables weren't there. But you were like, this guy can play. It makes who it makes me think of is David Bell. David Bell. You know what I mean? A guy who was highly productive at Purdue. Big Ten leader in yards. I don't remember if it was touchdowns also or not, but just a crazy productive player in college. But ran a slow 40. Wasn't very big. Wasn't very strong. And it's like, at some point, the physical attributes do need to translate to the NFL. You can be kind of like a merchant, like a target merchant and a yards merchant if you're playing with not a lot of other good players. If you're the focal point of an offense and you got a good offensive coordinator who can just kind of scheme you open, that kind of thing. Like, so to me, I'm excited about that. Maybe we take a less analytical approach in terms of this season's draft. And we are like, this guy's really big, really strong, and really fast. We need that on our football team. We're not going to take the guy who was maybe slightly undersized, but man, he tried real hard and he played 2 really good seasons at Washington or something. Like, maybe we go to the Georgia defense and get the guy who just looks like he was made in a lab. And play on an SEC defense, and we add some of those guys to the team. So I kind of like that. Like, maybe we're gonna switch up drafting philosophies a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of like 2 things that he said, and it went through everything. Because I mean, ultimately, what he does is he, does his presser, then he meets the press after, then he went on CBD, right? And there was a couple things that he mentioned in traits, and it's kind of changed up a little bit. But you're looking at something that, I'm sorry, I can find it here. Oh, it's it's versatility and decision making. But decision making, like, they're really getting on making very, very good decisions, like taking mass amounts of information like a quarterback would, and then processing that information and making different decisions to be successful. But they're also, on the flip side of that, they're saying, okay, well, the decision was bad here. So when they're going through the tape, they're like, why was it bad? What did you learn from it? Right. And I really like how they're putting an emphasis, not just like casually like, oh, we want good decision makers. No, we need someone that can process a lot of information and make the right decision. And if it's not the right decision, the second one or whatever it is, like, there's tiers and levels of decision-making ability. The other one is versatility. Like, how much can we kind of disguise things on both sides of the ball, I think is what that is. Or if you're going to be like a player on defense and going to add to special teams, or if you're a guy like Travis Hunter, which they've been going on and on about, you can play offense, you can play defense. I'm sure that guy can return. I don't know if he has for Colorado, but those are the two things that really stuck out to me.
No, those are, I like the idea about the decision making, and it's not necessarily that you never make a bad decision, but it's that you can identify what your bad decision was or what you learned from it, so you don't keep making the same bad decision over and over again.
Here's what they said is ultimate problem solvers. That's what I was looking for.
So I'm excited for the shift in philosophy, and maybe this signifies kind of a move away from a deep Podesta kind of hands in the cookie jar kind of draft. And it's going to be, we've heard we need to get a football guy. Maybe we're going to take a football guy mindset into this draft and like I said before, look like this guy's a freak. We need to draft a freak, and take that kind of player. So another thing then
it's some nasty guys too, man. Nasty guys that finish off the place.
Nasty on the football field. I'm tired of character guys. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was when he said the number 2 pick needs to be a guy that affects the game the most. To me, he might as well just have been wearing a t-shirt that said, "We're drafting a quarterback at number 2." Because there isn't a position on the field that affects the game more than quarterback. Adam Schefter came out and he said he doesn't know which guy it's going to be, but he feels very strongly it's going to be quarterback. We've reached the point where I will be shocked if it's not a quarterback at 2. It's the most important position. It's the position we have the biggest need at honestly since basically 1999. So year 2000. So that is, I thought that was very telling with the way he put that.
Yeah, he specifically said the first order of business is making playmakers that make an impact, right? And playmakers that make an impact, number 1, are quarterbacks, right? That is what we need. It was the biggest lack. It was the biggest thing lacking on our offense. It's the reason why we only scored 15.8 points or 16.8 points or whatever it was. We just don't have a quarterback that can process information, make the right decisions, and that's got to happen. But that being said, that whole room's got to be filled. I'm still liking what you say for the last couple episodes or last couple months of episodes. Draft 2. There's mid-rounds. You got 11 picks. Fill your boots. And the biggest thing you want to do, sign a vet. Get somebody that can show them this is how you process information. Just don't throw them to the wolves right away. Like, look at Patrick Mahomes. Look at even who else? Aaron Rodgers sat for a bit, right? Jordan Love sat for a bit. Even Hurts sat for 11 of his 17 games or 16 games, whatever season he started, where they had whatever the number of games were. But sitting and learning isn't a bad thing. It just sucks when you invest in a pick that high and you're not using it. But ultimately, that's hung a lot of QBs out to dry before they're even ready.
No, talking about just quarterback too, and not hanging people out to dry. And a lot of people have been screaming at us that we can't take a quarterback at 2 because none of these guys are first round quarterbacks. I don't know if anybody's noticed. A lot of talk has been like, at first it was that none of these guys are good, and the closer we get to the draft is I got Cam Ward and Shador on the same level as a JJ McCarthy and a Bo Nix. Well, we don't know about JJ McCarthy because of the injury, but Bo Nix had a pretty solid rookie season. You put him in a good situation. I'd argue he doesn't even have great wide receivers out there. He just put in a good position with Sean Payton. Look, he had a very good rookie season. So we're not even to the draft time yet. To the people screaming that there's no first round quarterbacks, Shador Sanders and Cam Ward are 100% first round quarterbacks. And I'm starting to see that Shador, some people have Shador as their number 1 quarterback. I'm getting to the point where I'm almost nervous that the Titans are going to take him. I don't want to say we're getting stuck with Cam Ward, but I think Shador fits us better. That's who I want. So
he's definitely the more cerebral quarterback. The point that Barry made, and it was in the after the presser when he addressed the media, he actually made a similar comparison to Mahomes when he came out in 2017. Nobody wanted to draft him in the first round. He had awful footwork. There was a ton of negatives against him, but he sat for a year. He learned, and look at him now, But at the time, you got to remember this guy. I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes sucks. I'm saying at the time, he only got drafted in 12th overall. And it was because of poor mechanics. He had to sit and learn. And that's what these guys in this draft have to do too.
I thought Josh made a post maybe last week, and he posted it was all the draft grades that the Chiefs got the year that they took Patrick Mahomes, and it was he was the 10th pick, and D, nothing was good. D plus or maybe C minus is the best draft grade they got. The guy's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, already staking his claim at potentially being the best quarterback of all time. He's every year he's been a starter. He's played in the AFC Championship game, and he's been to the Super Bowl 5 times or something crazy. He's won 3 of them.
Yeah.
So this is why I said the draft is a crapshoot. So much of it is about the fit. And where you go. Not all these guys can throw the ball. They've been doing it their whole lives. All these guys are athletic. It's just about the fit. So identify your guy and then make sure you do everything you can to make sure that you develop him and make sure it's a good fit. So yeah, I thought those were good takeaways for me from AB on Cleveland Browns Daily. The change in mindset with draft. I'm looking forward to the draft to see how that takes place.
Hey, Browns fans, we're excited to tell you guys about the new season of Living for We, the award-winning podcast from Idea Stream Public Media as part of the Connecting the Dots Between Race and Health initiative. This awesome podcast is hosted by Marlene Harris-Taylor. Season 1 focused on livability for Black women in Cleveland, but Season 2 explores the most pressing mental health epidemic facing the greater Cleveland area, and that is gun violence. Gun violence is the leading cause of death for young people in these neighborhoods, and every bullet fired creates 2 victims, the person in front of the gun and the person pulling the trigger. So join host Marlene Harris-Taylor, joined by her new co-host, Maisha Watkins, director of the Cleveland Peacemakers Alliance, as they highlight the untold stories and spotlight local heroes who are already in the trenches working for change. This season provides real talk and real solutions from both the victims of gun violence and the perpetrators with a story to tell. New episodes are released every other Tuesday starting February 11th. Subscribe now to Living for We on your favorite podcast app or watch the video version on IdeaStream's YouTube channel. Learn more at ideastream.com/podcast/living-for-we.
So then the last thing I want to talk about here for the last few minutes was these NFLPA report cards came out. And I guess before we dive into a couple of the individual ones, because some of these are eye-popping, and I guess to be fair, the Browns didn't do great on it last year. We were 30th in the league this year. Last year, we were 23rd. So we were more middle of the pack. I think a lot of it has to do, there's a difference between winning 11 games and winning 4 games or 3 games. So, but a couple, I guess my immediate thoughts were, man, that's terrible. And then I'm thinking, the more I'm looking at it, also, it's like, well, the players are employees, and all of us, for the most part, if you're listening, you have a job, and at your job, you also know that it's impossible to make everybody happy. Somebody's going to bitch about something. It doesn't matter what you do. It could be the best place in the world to work, and there's going to be a handful of people that wake up every day and just choose to be negative, and they bitch and moan about something every day. So, like when you look at some of this stuff, I was trying to like it says, 70% of players, only 70% of players approve of Stefanski. Well, that means most of the guys do. And then you got a couple who knows, maybe the day they took this, Stefanski got on them in practice, so they're pissing and moaning. It's just, so I think some of this you have to take with a little bit of a grain of salt. It's like there's always jaded employees, especially after a bad football season. That being said, some of these, like these are fixable, the first one on here that really caught my eye was the treatment of families. It says players rate post-game. Yeah, that was Stanley area, a 5.3 out of 10, ranking them 31 out of 32 teams. Players feel that the team organizes family events several times a year, which ranks 15 out of 32. The players believe the coaches' families are treated better than the players' families. For example, the coaches' families have a post-game meetup inside the stadium while the players' families meet in a tent in the parking lot. I'll say this, and maybe when we went up to training camp last year as a guest of Stump, we got to go to the family and friends area. I thought it was sweet, but maybe, I've never been to any other family and friends area of any other NFL team. So maybe it wasn't that cool, but I don't know. I felt pretty awesome over there. So, but to me, this is a culture thing that even if you think your employees are being babies, that it clearly is something that needs addressed. And so
it's a disconnect. It's a disconnect, and they need to figure out how they can make it better. I don't know if they got to put a playground there for the kids or whatever it is. It's usually something small, but it's like you said, I mean, the losing didn't help the cause of probably any of these grades, except for we know they got a new gym, and that gym looks awesome, and clearly it's an A. So, the training staff or their strengths coaches were the same or whatever. But other than that, I think treatment of the family is a small thing that can go a long way. And that should help you gain some free agents. So that should be they look like they fixed some things from last year. That should be number one on their list this year.
I don't understand. The one of the things says the Browns provide daycare on the Browns provide daycare on game day. They are one of only 10 teams that do not offer a family room during home games. Just offer a family room. You know what I mean? If 22 other teams do it, don't be one of the 10 that doesn't. Yeah, there's so much movement in this league with free agency and trades. Don't have a guy who just left a team that did these kinds of things. Then he comes to Cleveland. And all he's going to do is then go tell his buddies that, how shitty it is. So yeah, just offer it. Why would you not? It's not like you don't have the money to designate a room at the stadium for some families. I mean, just kick out a couple of reporters. I don't care what you have to do. Offer a family room. To me, that's crazy. But Park one's coming. Yeah. Everybody in the Discord, and I even saw a couple Facebook comments. A lot of these things can be addressed just by building the dome in the new stadium. The food and dining area, the Cleveland Browns rate the taste of their team's food 6.57 out of 10, ranking 27 out of 32. They rate the freshness of their food 7.42 out of 10, ranking 25th out of 32 teams. The players rate their dining area 7.15 out of 10, ranking at 29 out of the 32 NFL teams. Here's my thing is, and you don't have this problem. You don't live in America. American food sucks. It's all just processed garbage anyways. It's why we're all fat and sick. So the part of that is just our food sucks. And to me, it's very hard. You're not going to appease everybody's appetites in the same way. I'm a super picky eater. So if you're offering a bunch of stuff with things that I don't like, I'm going to say the food stinks, and the person sitting next to me might think the food's awesome. So, but just, I guess maybe offer more variety. The freshness thing is just have fresh food, guys. We're paying these guys millions of dollars so they can be at their best physical form. Let's make sure their food's fresh. I don't understand why we're giving them we shouldn't have Cuyahoga vending machine food for these guys. Let's have some fresh food in here.
But we saw that. Didn't we see didn't we see their cafe or their wherever they eat in NFL Draft, the movie? Didn't look that bad. Looked like they got good stuff. You know what I mean?
I think it was Jeff Phelps or something. They said his take was just going to make some people mad. I just think there's a lot of whiners in the locker room. I think it's probably a little bit of everything. It could probably be a little better. And I think people are just like to bitch and moan about things, especially when it's not going well at work, and it just makes everything else worse.
Exactly.
This one is telling and this would probably go a long way with just getting the new stadium, is the locker room was terrible last year. I think it was a D- last year, F- this year. So players are getting fed up with the locker room, the size of it. They don't in their individual lockers. So we need the new stadium's coming, guys. Just hang tight. Trading room,
I've seen it. It's small, man. It is small. They need to do something about it.
And then a couple of the other things I wanted to mention here. Team travel. 60% of the Browns players believe they have a comfortable amount of space on team flights, ranking them 27 out of 32. To me, this is where I'm like playing my world's smallest violin. Like, oh, you don't have enough, and you don't have enough room in your chartered flight where you don't have to go through TSA for 3 hours and like cry me a river.
Well, yeah, I get you on that for sure. I don't even want to see that one. Just take it off.
Yeah, but the other part of this though is the players feel that their team's travel schedule is not very efficient, and they ranks 28 out of 32. That would be something that's annoying. If you're saying, why are we doing this? This is nothing's more valuable than my time. Time is money. It's like the one thing I can't get more of is time. So don't waste it. So that is something that to me could be addressed. Like in terms of, I don't have enough legroom on the plane for my couple-hour flight. Welcome to the world for the rest of us.
That's fair.
But yeah, like let's figure out the travel schedule. And then the last two I really wanted to touch on here were the head coach. You got a grade of C. 67% of Browns players feel their head coach is efficient with their time and ranks 29 out of 32. The players feel that Stefanski is moderately receptive to locker room feedback on the team's needs, ranking him 30 out of 32 head coaches in the league. And this is a tough thing for me because, again, efficient with their time. What is he doing that they think is a waste of his time? Because we've watched practices. It seems pretty efficient to me at practice. I mean, their practices are shorter than most high school practices. I'm not in the meetings. I don't know what they have to do extra outside of practice time, that kind of thing. So that's hard for me to touch on. I'd be curious to know what is he not efficient with their time in terms of moderately receptive to locker room feedback. That's one of the things, like, I've been a manager before in jobs, and it's like at some point, yeah, they're telling me things, but at the end of the day, like, go do your freaking job. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'll try to do some things, but again, like, go do what you're being paid to do. At the end of the day, like, I can only make it so comfortable for you. I can only do so many things to make, like, at the end of the day, you're being paid. So some days are going to be harder than others. Just suck it up and go do it. Like,
no, I don't know, like the salesman shuffle. You manage sales guys, and they're moving their pens, they're not doing anything. Like, just do it, and then you're like, you get on them, and they're like kind of mad. They're like, I'm going to. No, you got to do it right now. As far as like efficiency, I wouldn't know with that one specifically. I was kind of surprised to hear that he was moderately. I can't even say it right now. Moderately receptive. And the reason is because I always thought the communication was clear, or that's what I understood from the players. They enjoyed Stefanski. So I kind of see that as like, we didn't win last year and it's kind of your fault. However, maybe it was, just something like, hey, we don't want this guy playing, this number 4 dude anymore. Get him off and let's get this other guy going. Maybe that's it. Like, I don't know what that means, but it's not good that it's there.
It is worth noting he had a B- last year. So, so he went down a half of a letter grade essentially after a losing season. I don't think that's crazy to think, especially with, like you mentioned before we started recording, he was the guy going out there saying Deshaun gave us the best chance to win. And who knows how many players were coming up, hearing him talking to him and telling him, like, this is BS. How much worse he has tied, but it's all speculation. Maybe they weren't tied at all. Maybe they were. I don't know. We're going to learn a lot this year. Like, this is going to be a very telling year for the Browns. The last thing I want to touch on before we wrapped it up was ownership. And I found this was maybe the most surprising out of any of them to me. Ownership got a C+, ranked 22nd out of 32 teams. I think if you asked a majority of fans and even other people around the league, they would tell you,
it would have fell out of the chairs. Yeah.
That ownership in Cleveland is the reason why we have not been able to find any success. So owner Jimmy Haslam's average rating for perceived willingness to invest in the facilities is a 7.98 out of 10 from the Browns players, ranking 21 out of 32 owners in the league. I don't understand how you can rank all your facilities as D's and C minuses, but then give the guy who builds those things for you a higher grade and say that.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I've never seen this, and that's very odd.
It doesn't make, like, he shows a willingness to invest in these things, but you graded those things as poorly. So obviously his willingness to invest in them isn't that high. So some of this was a little weird to me. The the players believe that ownership.
Don't you find it kind of weird though that like that's almost an 8 out of 10? Okay, that he's willing to invest in the Browns, but he's only 21. Like the 80% of what he does is good for the team almost at that 7.98, but it still only ranks 21. Like everybody else in the league is above 80%. Like they're a 9 out of 10. Like that's
look at other teams.
Like how close are these values? I'd want to see the rest, I guess.
I feel like they're probably really close. Another thing I was talking to Josh about earlier was it'd be interesting to compare teams that made the playoffs last year's grades to teams that finished under 500 last year's grades and compare them, because I bet you know what else, like we talked about being happy at your job, you're going to rate these things higher. If you're coming off a miserable season, all of a sudden you remember that couple times where the food wasn't that great in the cafeteria, so you give them a lower grade. You're coming off an NFC Championship run, and probably food was great, A+.
Well, I wonder how it would be tied into the amount of players leaving too, because you got 29 guys that are told we're not signing you back. This is an end of the year process, I'm assuming. So they're like, nah, whatever. Y'all suck. You didn't sign me back. See you later. You know, maybe that has a part in it too.
Another part of Jimmy's thing was players believe that ownership slightly contributes to positive team culture. So that ranks 29th out of 32. And the players feel that ownership is somewhat committed to building a competitive team, and that ranks 29th out of 32. I'll say this. I don't think you can fault him in terms of being committed to building a winning team. The dude is spending an insane amount of money to put his decision-making at times is flawed. It isn't due to a lack of commitment. The guy is paying an obscene amount of money to try to put a winning team on the field. The way we do the salary cap forces him to put so much cash in escrow. He's doing only one other owner's really doing it. The guy is the Eagles. So to me, like, his commitment isn't the issue. He might be overcommitted. That might be part of the problem, is we're not allowed to play anything out, which is, I talked about why I'm happy that we brought everybody back for at least one more season. Just not making any knee-jerk reactions over a bad season. So let us know what you guys think of those grades. Some people were just screaming about how it reflects in the organization. Like I mentioned, we were 22nd last year, coming off of a year in which we all celebrated how bought in the team was, and then we made the playoffs with 5 starting quarterbacks, and we were bottom half of the league last year. So I don't think this necessarily speaks to the organization and in the culture. There's some things on there that need addressed for sure, but I don't think it's not like we can look at this and be like, well, no wonder we only won 4 games. I can't remember how many games we won because I put the season so far in the back of my brain.
Yeah. Good. Do it, man.
But yeah, so I don't think it's not a direct reflection of why we won and lost games, but there are a couple things on here, like just fix them so we don't have to read this again next year. Like, do better as a team, as a boss. You need to be able to take criticism and realize that you are not a perfect boss and fix it to get better. Even though, like I said, sometimes you have to be a boss and tell people just to shut up and go do their job, but you also have to be able to reflect and make it a nice place to work. So there's give and take on both sides, I think. But it's getting late. We had technical difficulties, so we got started real late. I try to get Kenny to bed because I get up real early, and I'm keeping him up here real late. Yeah, so we're gonna wrap this thing up. Josh is hopefully he'll get this edited, put out hopefully sometime on Thursday or maybe Friday. But again, be on the lookout Sunday, 3:00 p.m. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube with the notification bell tapped so you don't miss the alert that we will be live at 3:00 p.m. on Sunday, March 2nd, doing the celebration of our 500th episode. It'll be around episode 505, I believe. We're giving away a jersey, 3 t-shirts, going to have some special guests, including Kenny Mack. We're going to be talking Browns football for an hour and a half. Grab yourself an afternoon beverage, maybe grab a stogie, jump in the chat, and let's just talk Browns football for a while on Sunday. We're looking forward to it. We appreciate you guys hanging out here with us throughout all the offseason. We're super pumped as we're getting closer to the draft and free agency as things are starting to keep back up for the season. So again, we appreciate you guys being here. We'll see you guys on Sunday for the 500th episode celebration.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dawgs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedawgspodcast.com.
This episode is sponsored by ButcherBox for Pets. Browns fans, it's about time the Dawgs offered you something for the real dogs in your life. Our furry friends aren't just pets, they're part of the family. And you wouldn't let yourself or your children eat strange meat from questionable sources, and your dog shouldn't either. Right now, head to butcherboxforpets.com/dogs or use promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, to get 20% off your entire order. At ButcherBox, they believe in real ingredients. Their pet foods have been developed and certified by a vet nutritionist to contain 0 artificial flavors or preservatives. You get protein-packed formula with over 50% of the recipe comprised of third-party certified humane ButcherBox meat, plus functional ingredients like pre- and postbiotics to support your dog's vitality and digestion. And ButcherBox even removes the guesswork for you. Their custom meal plans are perfectly portioned to fit your dog's nutritional needs based on 8 factors, including age, weight, and activity level. I know my home wouldn't be the same without Odie, our 100-pound golden who thinks he's a 10-pound lap dog, and it gives us peace of mind knowing that we're giving him quality food instead of that factory processed garbage from the store. And speaking of the store, no need to add dog food to the shopping list ever again. ButcherBox delivers their high-quality food right to your door on the right feeding schedule for your dog. And you can change, modify, or pause your plan at any time. So head to butcherboxforpets.com/dogs and use promo code DAWGS for 20% off your order. It's time for all of us dogs to give all of our dogs the nutrition they deserve.